Thank you, Patricia. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another awesome, hopefully, session with Tejano Virtual Events. As Patricia mentioned, my name is Chris Salas. I'm Associate Professor of Social Work here at Valle Verde, excuse me, in our social work program. Um, Today's topic is one that I actually did for the Office of Student Success not too long ago, but we saw that this would be really beneficial for our students to look at what do boundaries look like, right? How do we set boundaries? And just simply, what are boundaries? So I just want you all to know that I'm never a today we are going to learn about no that's definitely not my style of presenting or teaching. We're definitely going to be a little interactive today, right? So be ready to get some work, maybe while I do a little housekeeping before we truly get started. Get yourself a piece of paper, a pen, a marker, a pencil. If you want to do it digitally, hey, more power to you. But as always, I would like to start off with saying and giving a huge shout out and a huge thank you to the staff at Tejano Virtual Events and the Office of Student Success because of this continued partnership that we have. And they haven't gotten bored of me yet, but I really do appreciate the efforts to keep mental health and the overall well-being of all our Tejanos and Tejanas, right? From faculty, staff, and students, everybody alike. So I am very thankful for the continued partnership between myself, the Mental Health Committee for EPCC, and Tejano Virtual Events. Just like in class, any other presentation, workshop, I always like starting off giving you all a little roadmap as to what we're going to be talking about. I used to call them my spoilers. Figured I'd move on from that. So it's our little roadmap. We're going to start off with talking about who are we, right? Who makes us us? Because in order to understand our boundaries, right, what we set, and how we enforce those boundaries, we got to understand who we are, right? Then we're going to touch on what are boundaries, from boundaries between people, right? So our personal boundaries, excuse me, and then touch on boundaries within school, right? The education setting, in the classroom. Um, Thinking about it, we really do also need to touch on even uh, the internet, right? Well, not necessarily media, but our digital boundaries. And then finish off with a quick conversation on how do we set those boundaries. Just like I alluded to a couple of seconds ago, this will be a bit interactive, right? Now, with all that said and done, I might ask some of you, I'm not going to point out names, be like, so Mary, tell me about. No, but if you feel like sharing, whether it's unmuting yourself or whether it's putting it in the chat, um, I will be asking a couple of questions here throughout the presentation. And just like in the classes, it goes much easier when we have some sort of collaboration, because you don't want to hear all my stories. So again, make sure you got a piece of paper, you got some a pen, a pencil, highlighter, marker. If you want to do it digitally, again, by all means, go forth and conquer. Okay, so let's have an existential question and answer here. So who are you, right? We are more than our name. We are more than what we wear, what's in the outside, right? We all wear and we all are multiple things. We wear many hats. We have many responsibilities, duties, all these things that makes us us. So in your piece of paper, start writing some of the things that make you you. I would be a horrible instructor if I didn't give you an example of what the heck that means. Other than a potential mugshot, this is a picture that I took about a month or so ago, out in the convention center of El Paso during Winterfest. Each year they have what we call Tuba Christmas for my music people. Um, every year across the country, a bunch of tuba players and euphonium and baritone players get together and we play Christmas music. And so this was during that. I took out my old sousaphone, my old big tuba, went with my oldest son. He's a tuba player in middle school at Wiggs, and we jammed out with about 50 or so other tuba players across the city. But anywho, so that's a little bit about who I am, right? Musician, a father of two uh, stunning young boys. One is 13 and one is 3. One's going to be 14 and one's going to be 4. So I get to go through the teenage and the terrible threes at the same time. There's a reason why I keep my hair short. But other than that, I am a husband, I'm a father, I am a son. I'm a brother, I'm a friend, professor, social worker, advisor, all these other things. But even outside of that, some of the more specific things, right? I'm a board member, mental health professional. Excuse me. I'm a sports fan. Go Miners and go Cowboys. If I see some of you logging off right now, I can probably guess why. I'm a Lego enthusiast. I love building Lego. Lego sets are my kind of get away from everything and just concentrate, right? Let everything else out. That's my thing. Like I said, I'm a musician. I enjoy making music. I enjoy listening to all sorts of music. I'm a movie lover. I love watching movies. James Bond, that series is my all-time favorite. Just a bunch of things, to be honest with you. Definitely a foodie. I didn't get to be my voluptuous self, if I didn't love food and all kinds of food. Um, and at the end of the day, I mean, I am human, right? We all make mistakes at some point or another. I had to double check that my microphone was on because I've started class sometimes and 5, 10 minutes into it, my students are like, we can't hear anything. Oops. Hey, so forget the fast 5, 10 minutes. Let's hit replay. So hopefully you all have been creating a list of who you are, what makes you you, right? The multiple hats, the multiple responsibilities, duties, titles, all these things that you wear. So whether it's by unmuting yourself or putting it in the chat, if you guys want to share, please do. What makes you you? Who are you? So I'll wait to hopefully get some of these in the chat. Also patrol here the roster or the participants. Anybody want to unmute? And by all means, please feel free. My moderators, hey, looking at you guys. You're also part of this. This is when everybody goes like, oh man, he wasn't kidding. Told you. We'll do the techie. Oh, during the pandemic, I found out that I am not as computer savvy or tech savvy as I thought I was. So that's definitely one that I'm a work in progress. I'm an athlete. All right, Annalyn, good. A sister, a friend, a daughter, diabetic, and love the color pink. I love blue. I don't know if you can tell. I mean, but I got blue shoes on, got blue shirt. I didn't wear my blue watch, but cool. Yeah, I definitely didn't put athlete. I mean, I played football back in the day, but even marching. I did the alumni band at UTEP a couple of months ago, and I don't think I could even march and carry that sucker around for even 5 minutes anymore. Man, it's hard to realize you are not 20 years old anymore. A friend, a son, a dreamer, supporter, and a brother. Oh man, that's a great list of defining who you are. Man, you guys got some good examples. I might have to redo mine. Those are really good. But think about those, right? Think about those responses. And even if you didn't contribute, didn't answer, that's fine. But think about those things that you mentioned just right now, right? And think about what it is that you do to be a son, to be a dreamer, an athlete, a techie. What does it take to do that? And the reason I say that is because who or what you just mentioned, that's what's getting a piece of us, right? whether it's in concentration, whether it's in time, whether it's whatever, even money, monetary, right? It costs money to be a student. It costs money to be a provider, to support. Any of these things can cost, whether it's monetary or whether it's time, but there's some cost associated to that. And yeah, we can start sounding a little kind of like in the time management side of things. And some of these exercises or some of the things that I might suggest to you all might be things that you would see in a time management type of presentation or discussion. But again, all these hats that you wear, all these things that define you take time, right? So for example, you know, to be a husband, to be a father, to be a son, be a husband, it means, if spending time with my wife, doing things for her. If it means, as a father, spending time with my boys, going to and driving my oldest to auditions and things for school. For my youngest, picking him up from school, taking him in the morning, taking him to the doctor's office, right? In my professional side, giving a lecture, preparing for class, um, it's not just show up to class, give a lecture, and we're done, right? We prepare, believe it or not. I mean, I hope so. But even being a board member, hey, I got to give an hour, 2 hours of my time every once in a while. Plus, I got to prepare for those meetings. I got to read the material. If I'm the treasurer for one of the boards that I sit on, I need to sit down and review the financials. I need to sit down with our executive director and our operations manager and review the financials. Where are we money-wise? All these things take time. And I don't want to say unfortunately, but unfortunately, time is very finite. And what I mean by that is there's 24 hours in a day, right? Technically 23 hours, 54 minutes, and 4 seconds, if is what the scientific exact is for a day on Earth. Anywho, so whatever we are spending time on means that we're taking time away from something else. We're allocating our time, right? Again, you're probably thinking, wait. I thought this was supposed to be a talk on boundaries, not on time management. I didn't sign up for this. You kind of sort of did. Because when we talk about boundaries, before we get into this slide of what are boundaries, think of the decisions that you make on a daily basis, right? How much time you spend on something, right? When you say yes to something that you could have said no to, taking on a different task, taking on a different role. All these things are time consuming, and that time has to come from somewhere. And when you take something on, when you do something, right, that maybe you hadn't planned for, maybe you didn't, whatever the case might be, you're taking time from someone or something else. Again, our day is very finite, right? We only got 24 hours in a day. Each class is 50 minutes. Each class is an hour and 20 minutes. Things are very well defined. So keep that in mind for 1 second. So now let's talk about what are boundaries. Believe it or not, these are set by you. No one else sets your boundaries, right? Boundaries are what you define them as. These are not what someone else says they are. These are what you say they are. In essence, you define your definition, of what is okay and what is not okay. And you can interpret that as you wish, right? If we're having a rather deep conversation, this means what someone can tell you and what someone can't tell you, how someone speaks to you, how someone doesn't speak to you, what someone can say or do, or what someone can't say or do to you, right? So again, boundaries are something that not only you set, but you define. There's no cookie cutter as to, oh, well, this other person, da 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 da, so therefore this other person, da 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 da. No, it's what you define. And we'll talk about consistency, right? About who does what and such. It's what you allow others to know, right? To do, and so on. We'll talk about shovels and levels, but I'm sure that you all have different levels of friends per se, acquaintances, right? People that are your buddies, people that are, you know, you just know who the heck they are, and that's pretty much the extent. Maybe you recognize their face. And then you have friends that are been your lifelong friends, or people that, man, they're your ride and die. I said it, in other instances where I have about two people in my life that if they tell me jump off a bridge, I'm probably going to jump off that bridge and thinking like, well, man, there must be a really good reason for me to jump off this bridge. And as I'm falling, I'm probably going to be like, man, I really hope that they were they were not just being dumb about this. Um, but because I have such a deep connection and such a deep relationship and such a good relationship with these individuals, that I know that whatever they say is in my best interest, that we've gone through some stuff together, and that at the end of it all, it's always been a very, mutual relationship, that I respect them, they respect me. I'm always invested in their best well-being, and vice versa, right? Excuse me. Uh, Boundaries can definitely be influenced by culture. Just simple gestures, for the longest time, I never even thought about this, but when I greet when I greet anybody in my family, it's always a kiss on the cheek, right? Believe it or not, I'm Hispanic, right? Lived in Juarez for the first 5 years of my life. All my family's down in the interior of Mexico, from León, Guanajuato. I have family in Irapuato, in León, and not the DF anymore. It's just Mexico, Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City, obviously Juarez. I had an uncle that lived in Zacatecas at some point. But culture definitely has some impact on what your boundaries are, right? Depending on culture, ethnicity, race, where you were raised, it can impact what your boundary is. In essence, sometimes what's your personal bubble, right? So again, to this day, every member of my family that I greet them with a kiss on the cheek. My oldest son, who my in-laws are Middle Eastern, from Syria and Lebanon and such. That's not necessarily a thing. So the first time he saw me kiss my uncle, he's like, "Whoa, Dad, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Greeting my uncle." Yeah, but you gave him a kiss on the cheek, and that's how we greet. I mean, many cultures have that. Not every culture, but some cultures do, right? So also be mindful of culture. It's not necessarily people being disrespectful, right? At the same time, don't try to impose your culture, right? Your boundaries on someone else. So definitely culture has some impact on and influence on boundaries. Excuse me. These are yours and yours only, like I said before. There's no cookie cutter. Sometimes all the things that you said make you, right? Maybe there's a particular illness, particular disease. People might have an autoimmune deficiency. And so maybe getting too close to people could potentially be harmful to them. Because of culture, because of whatever, maybe past experiences. People aren't comfortable being too close to people or shaking hands. You do the fist bump or the elbow, the wing, the chicken wing. Again, culture and all of these things that we just talked about make or help you create your own personal boundaries. There is no cookie cutter here, right? This isn't a what's good for the goose is good for the gander. No, these are yours and yours alone. By that same token, though, other people who might have the same ethnicity, same culture, same everything as you, doesn't mean that those individuals have the same boundaries as you do. Okay, but I'm starting to sound a little preachy, so let's move on real quick. When we talk about personal boundaries, think of your personal boundaries, right? Friends, family, things of that nature. So sometimes Even interpersonal boundaries could be set by the role that you have with people. Think of how you interact with, what boundaries you have with friends, compared to some boundaries with your classmates, with your work buddies. Um, and sometimes these blend. Sometimes your coworker happens to be in the same class as you. Sometimes your coworker may be a high school friend of yours. So there might be some blending of these roles that now we're talking more of where you are, right? You can't act the same way at work as you do if you're out and about having a good time with your buddy on a Friday night. Maybe you can. I don't know. No judgment here. But we definitely have to understand what roles we are working with, right? Think of even volunteer situations. But again, even in these situations, who knows what, right? And who decides that? In other words, who knows what about you? How much do they know about you, right? Do your coworkers know as much of you than your really good friends? Do your classmates know as much as your coworkers? Do you know as much about your coworkers as you do your friends or your classmates or your neighbors, right? And at the end of the day, who decides that, right? Again, hopefully it's you. You're the one that decides how much you disclose about yourself. Now, I'm kind of I almost feel like a hypocrite when I talk about this because I tell people I'm an open book. Ask me and I'll tell you. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not going to sit there if someone I just met and tell them my whole life story, right? Imagine I started off this conversation by saying, "Hi, my name is Chris Salas. I'm a professor of social work at El Paso Community College. Oh, about 4 years ago, I went under surgery because they found cancer, and I went on a one round of chemotherapy, which landed me in the emergency room for an entire week. Um, and I ended up giving my classes from the hospital during the pandemic." Everybody in here would probably go like, "What the heck just happened? Like, what the heck?" Like, okay, that's a little TMI, right? By the way, all that is true. Um, I really use that more for as an example rather than, "Oh, woe is me." No, I'm good. Knock on wood. Have been cancer free ever since. All my CT scans and everything. But anyways, beside the point. We dictate what we tell people. We dictate how much people know about us, And even if someone keeps on prying, right? You set those boundaries. Great example is I knew a judge I worked for at one point. Years after I had left, I came back to visit, and I had noticed that the judge had bought a new truck. And when I was speaking to the judge, they said, "Well," I said, "Hey, I saw that you got a new truck." "That's right." "Oh, what kind of truck did you get?" "Uh-huh." "Oh, is it the same as your old one?" "Uh-huh. Yeah, got a new truck." That's a very nice way of saying like none of your business, right? But in a very nice way of saying like that's it's all right, don't worry about it. So be it. Those are boundaries that are set, right? Hey, that's my personal stuff. Let's stick to what we're talking. Let's talk business. That's personal. You got to catch those hints here and there. We talk about school, it can get a little bit difficult sometimes. And I don't mean because it's a different setting, but you're dealing with or talking to, working with multiple people in different roles, from interacting with your classmates, people that you might know from other classes, people that you might just know today when you just walked into class the first day. Heck, even everyone right now that's present at this talk. Then your faculty, right? Your professors. Again, I know some faculty that are extremely open with their students. And maybe it's just my profession, right? Where we talk about self disclosure, we talk about setting very clear boundaries with our patients, right? Before I was a professor here at EPCC, I was a therapist. I worked in mental health and substance abuse counseling. So it was a very patient professional relationship. There was not much information coming from me towards my patients. I wasn't disclosing about family and issues and such. If I felt that it could help in the therapeutic relationship, sure. But more often than not, is like, yeah, I'm married and this and that, but that was it, right? The same, sometimes with our faculty, we might create those boundaries like, I'm not ever going to talk to my professor. There's some students that after each class stay with their faculty and have a conversation, right? There's some students that will invite their faculty to here, to there. Hey, some of us are going to get together for lunch. Would you like to join us? Hey, some of us are going to go, most of the students are of age. Hey, we're going to go and our group is going to go have a drink afterwards. I kind of follow my professional guidance, right? As a social worker and such, say, I'm like, hey, guys, I really appreciate it, but I really can't. You guys go have a good time, behave yourselves, don't do anything dumb. Just, I would like to see you back in class, 2 days from now or at on next Monday. But that's the boundaries that I've set for myself as a faculty member between myself and my students. That can also mean how we speak to each other, right? As a mental health professional, again, I'm a professional, I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor, whatever title you want to give me. I'm not someone's friend. I'm not someone's compadre. I'm their therapist. And there's been a couple of times where I've had to, in a very gentle way, correct them, right? Like, hey, I really appreciate that you think of me as a friend. And I really am glad that we have such a good, working relationship. But just remember that, this is a working relationship. I'm your provider. I'm your therapist. So we need to remember that there are some boundaries there that we also need to recognize as students, as faculty, even as classmates. I go back to my alma mater, to UTEP, and talk to some of my faculty from then, and I still to this day can't do it. They tell me, oh, call me by my first name, right? Call me so-and-so. I'm like, I'm sorry, Dr. So-and-so, but, I can't do that because to me, you're here, right? Way up here, and I'm I'm not that way up, but I'm down here somewhere. Oh, no, just call me so-and-so. No, I'm sorry. I mean, look, don't take it disrespectfully, but just culture, right? I was told to respect my elders. I was told to respect my, my higher ups and such. It's going to take a lot for me to call you by your first name, especially since you were my mentor, you were my faculty member and such. So that's another example of where culture can definitely influence where those boundaries lie. And the same, who knows what about you? And you are, at the end of the day, the one that dictates that, what they know and how they know these things. So again, take a quick second to think of the interactions you have on a daily basis. Heck, even right now, right? Whether you chose to participate, and I don't mean this in any negative way, whether you chose to put something on our chat or not, right? Think about, was it like, oh, I don't want to do it because I just don't want to, like, I'm doing something else, or I don't want other people to know, because my name pops up on this thing. I don't want other people to know maybe who I am. Why is that? What boundaries have you put already? Think of your interactions with your classmates. How much, even if you're in groups, right? Everybody loves groups, right? Think of your group work. Do your group members know a lot about you or a little bit about you? How come? Do your faculty members, your English professor, math professor, your major professor, right? Your area of study, your clinical director or a clinical instructor, do they know more about you than your basics, right? Some of my students have me for 4 classes. Pobrecitos, man, poor people. I mean, they some of them have me for 4 classes. I said, man, you guys have the patience of a saint. And I can see the students that I have for many classes, we do start building a bit of a rapport where students feel more comfortable in having just a conversation, whether it's about the profession, heck, whether it's just about the class. And then there's some students that I've never seen and come up to me the first day like, hey, I had a question about this, boom, 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 boom. All right. But again, why is it that we have those different maybe levels of comfort, right? You can throw in there, oh, well, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert. Hey, that's cool too, right? Because that also kind of lets you or determines what your boundaries are going to be like. So think about that. Think about your daily interactions with other individuals, with other people at home, at work, at school, right? I'm sure everybody has had to go to the registrar's office, maybe see a counselor, maybe financial aid. What have your interactions with each of these staff members looked like? How come? Right? Were you upset at something? Because, man, I can tell you, I love my alma mater, right? Go Miners. But, man, I hated dealing with it. Having to go to one office. No, you have to get this paper signed. Yes, it was back in the days when you had to get actual signatures. You have to get this signed, so you have to go to this office and then come back. Okay, go to one office, come back. Well, no, you have to go to this office first, and then you come back here. And you got to be kidding me. And sometimes that bubbled over, and the poor person that's sitting right in front of me, right, whether it's a registrar, whether it's financial aid, whether it's parking and transportation, whatever office, they might be the ones that get the brunt of it, right? You know what, I've come to be a little bit more lenient, I guess, with age. And even when I call centers, right, or I call customer service, when something doesn't go my way or something gets mixed up, call, thank you for calling so and so, how can I help you? Hey, you know what? Look, I want to start off by saying there was an issue with this and this and this. I'm really frustrated with this, and I apologize ahead of time if I kind of sound that I'm mad or ticked off or whatever. I really do. I really know that you're going to try and help. And whatever anger and frustration and thing kind of looks like it's coming to you, it's not. I'm just kind of letting you know that this is really frustrating for me right now. Right? And you'd be surprised. That helps. That kind of helps disarm things sometimes. I've had students that come to me like that sometimes. Go, you know, Salas, this and this and this and this, it has really been upsetting me. Hey, let's talk about it. I do another presentation for this about, I call them my cows, right? COW, Crisis of the Week. And it's really where I give a space for my students to talk about things. And in essence, it's kind of widening the boundaries a bit in the classroom. Some students are comfortable, some are not, in talking about what they might be going through right then and there. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But let's be completely honest. There definitely are times when our boundaries, whether they're interpersonal, whether they're professional, whether they're educational, right, in the classroom, in school, that these get blurred. So in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, what might be some of the things that could cause some of our boundaries to get blurred? What could cause boundaries to become blurred? You know, where you have people coming in and out of boundaries. When you see people outside the rules, yeah. You know, in therapy, we call that, oh my goodness, I blanked on what we call it. Dual relationships. Like as a professor in a grocery, yeah, right? We talk about having dual relationships with patients where you're not only their therapist but maybe you happen to have a kid in the same school as them. And so now you're in the same meetings, you know, parent teacher conferences, PTA, maybe they're in this, their kids are in the same sports or in the band or activities as your kids are. And so now you're seeing them um, outside the role. Yeah, thank you, Patricia. That's a great example, right? So we have. I always laugh when heck, I remember as a little kid seeing my teachers in the grocery store and going to my mom like, oh, there's Miss So and So. It's like, oh, go say hi. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna go say hi. Like, it's like we thought that teachers lived in the classroom. Like they don't have a life. What the heck are they doing buying groceries? They don't eat food. They're like aliens, right? I would hope that you all think we're not aliens anymore, and we do have a life. We do well. Again, I don't know what you all consider life, but we have a life. We do enjoy doing things that typical people enjoy doing, but definitely, right? Seeing people outside of the roles definitely can blur the boundaries. Even how you treat people, if you treat people differently in certain situations, that can definitely blur the boundaries, right? If you're not consistent with your boundaries, that also can blur the boundaries. Because one day you say that someone can say this or say that or do this or do that, and the next day it's totally fine, right? I tell people it's like it's not just whenever it's convenient to you. These boundaries, in order for them to work, you have to follow through. You got to be consistent with these things. All right. So let's talk about how do we set our boundaries. Let's see, I can do this a little bit bigger. There we go. There we go. So remember, you are in control. These are things that are set by you, right? Remember your responses earlier. Remember the things that you talked about, right? And think of not just what's taking your time, but within those roles, what is okay and what isn't okay. What I mean by that is it okay for you to stay after school for 3-4 hours? Or is it okay? Let me give you a better example. That was not a great example. If you set a group meeting, right, for a group project, and your group project is, or your meeting is at 12 o'clock, and you're hypothetically, everybody in your group is there and you're falling behind, you're really not watching the time, you're really kind of lollygagging, you're like, oops, I need to go at the group meeting, and you're on the way there, you stop at Starbucks, you stop for some lunch. By the time you get there, it's probably 12:30, 12:45. Your group is probably not happy with you, right? And as they're working, like, oh, we already decided, and you start maybe getting upset at them for something. Well, understand that boundary of time, right? Again, it sounds very time management-y, but now you've crossed boundaries with other people. It's very disrespectful at that point, right? We had set this understanding that 12 o'clock, and people had made time for 12 o'clock, and your total kind of disregard for that. Or you're the group that met and you have another team member that is a bit like the example I gave. That's very disrespectful because now you're taking away, maybe now the group might have to stay till 1:30, 1:45, where it could have been done by 1. And now you're starting to eat up in other things. And you might have some people that go like, I'm sorry, at 1 o'clock, I got to go. It is what it is. Let me know what you guys need. That's someone that's sticking to those boundaries that they set, right? A faculty member, a professor that runs overtime during class. Again, I find that very disrespectful to my students. I try to start, I'm like, hey, class is at 1. At 1 o'clock, I'm like, hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. All right, so we talked about this last time. Today we're going to talk about this. Let's go. Boom. If it's an hour and 20 minutes at 2:15, I'm like, all right, we got 5 minutes. Let's finish up this slide. We'll do a quick wrap up and we're out of here. I want to make sure that I stick to my personal boundaries, but I want to infringe on my students' time as well. In regards to how much someone knows about you, what someone is allowed to and such, think of maybe creating some sort of system, shovels, spoons, levels, whatever, right? People you just meet only know who you are. The people that you have a constant relationship with, maybe you give them a little bit more. And as you move forward in your relationships with people, people get to know a little bit more about you. They get to see who you are. You open up a little bit more. So be open and honest with others about your boundaries. Definitely let people know, like, hey, you know what? I understand that this, but hey, I have this to do, and I'm sure other people have too. Come on, can we just be on time next time? Or there's times in discussions, even online discussions, where I'm reading through my students' answers, and I'll be like, hey guys, remember we got to be courteous to other people depending on their opinion. If you disagree, that's fine, but you don't have to be, a jerk about it. Say, I don't agree because of this, but hey, I see your point. Even in just discussions in class, things can get heated. It's like, hey, I can see this is starting to get taking things personal. Remember, this is a conversation, an educational and academic conversation where we can see everybody's points of view. There's no need for name calling. There's no need for yelling. Let's bring the temperature down a bit. But that can also happen just interpersonally, right? If someone starts yelling at you, someone starts pushing you, someone starts saying this about, where are your boundaries, right? Be honest in that. And this is I think the most important, to be honest with you, is follow through with your boundaries. If you, again, you know who you are, you know what makes you you. You might know what makes you tick, right? What makes you upset. Before someone gets to that, be like, you know what? I understand that you're upset, but this is starting to become rather personal. Let's continue this conversation when we're both in a better mindset, or we'll have this conversation when things cool down. And you walk away. Remember, these are your boundaries. This is according to you, right? Learn to say no. Definitely easier said than done for some, right? Again, a bit of time management per se, but don't take on more than you can chew. That can create some frustration. That can create anger. That can create some animosity towards people, right? But again, I get it. We want to appease people. We want to make people happy. We want to make them like us. We want to make them. Been there, done that. And at the end of the day, remember, there's this it looks like a pie graph broken off into 24 pieces, right? Again, used for time management purposes. And they ask you, shade off each of these, every piece of this pie per se is an hour. Think of the things you do on a daily basis and shade off how many hours. So how many hours do you sleep? How many hours do you work? Right? How many hours do you do this, do that, and shade it off until you fill up your entire day. And now let's be completely honest with ourselves. How many minutes, hours do we spend scrolling on our phone? There's times that I walk through Valle Verde, and as I'm going from one classroom to the other, I'll see people that might be sitting down, scrolling. I go to class, I come back out of class, same people sitting there, scrolling. I always feel like I'm bashing on my oldest, right? But there's times where he'll tell me, oh, I feel overwhelmed with my schoolwork and this. And I'm like, why is that? It's like, oh, I have this project that's due by the end of the week, might be Wednesday. Like, dang, man, like, well, did you just get it? Like, well, no. Like, how long have you had it for? Oh, it's been like a month or so that we've had it. Okay, so is this feeling of overwhelmness coming because maybe you didn't start it when you should have started it? Again, I'm not the most, again, I tell them, if you want hugs and kisses, go to mom. If you want to be like, hey, did you really think about this? Or did you really do this? I'm that dad, right? Maybe not the popular one, but such is life. Anywho, but again, think about that. Even if you spend 20 minutes scrolling on your phone, 20 minutes doing this, That could have been 20 minutes. You knocked out your notes, knocked out your thing. Hey, now you got 20 minutes more than your day. The way I think about it is like, what's my priorities? When I get home, my laptop, my phone to the side, spend time with my kids, spend time with my wife. Once they go to bed, laptop comes back out, send emails, send messages, da da da, do this grading, do that, whatever. And I'm a night owl, totally fine with it. I'm good with sleeping 6, 7 hours. Is it the healthiest? Probably not, but I'm good. That's my thing. But those are my boundaries, right? Once if I'm at home and I have my family in front of me, that's family time. So here's the last bit for you all, and I'll leave you with this real quick. So think about it. For you all towards your classmates, be respectful of each other's boundaries, not just on how you talk to each other, your personal boundaries, right? Each other's personal bubbles. And even, like I said, be respectful of each other's time, your space, and your opinion, specifically your time, right? You're not the only, again, I'm going to sound rather harsh and I apologize, but you are not the only person, or there's not just one person that is a parent. There's not just one person that might be taking care of an elderly parent or a sick child or a sick family member, or might have two jobs, right? There's other people, or put it in those perspectives. You are now disrespecting, taking the time and space and such of people that do have that. Remember, you all are in the same boat. At the end of the day, you all are in the same class. You all are doing the same assignment. You all are doing the same work. You all got to turn in the same thing, right? I know people hate groups, but as I tell my students, hey, if this is the one place in time where you can sit down and learn how to manage and how to deal with other people, so be it. Hey, let's work through that. Let's work through that. We've tried talking to this group member and they don't reply back. What do? This person doesn't do what we told them to. What do? All right, let's work through that. For my students, towards your faculty and staff, and I say this reality, it's reciprocated, right? It's not just you all towards faculty and staff, it's us as faculty and staff towards our students. But be kind, courteous, and courageous. Now, courageous is not like, haha, I'm going to battle. No, I say that as my grandmother always told me in Spanish, right? Lo cortés no quita lo valiente. In other words, your courtesy doesn't take away from your courage. Whether you agree with someone or disagree with someone, keep a smile and be like, you know what? I enjoyed the lecture today. I disagree with the comment about this and this and this. If someone comes to me like that, I'd be like, oh, interesting. Tell me more about that. Well, I think that this, like, oh, okay. I never thought about that perspective. Or, hey, you know what? That's interesting. But also take this into consideration. And it becomes a dialogue rather than a exchange of words, right? Be kind and courteous. Again, that goes both ways. I always tell my students, look, if you text me and this, and if something's going on, let me know. It's all about communication. If something doesn't get turned in, guess what? To me, it didn't get turned in. But if you reach out, say like, my kiddo was sick. Hey man, I'm a father. I've been there before. I've been in the middle of lectures and get that dreaded phone call from the school saying, hey, kid's sick, come pick him up. I'm like, crap, I'm in the middle of lecture. I'll be right there. Hey guys, I'm really sorry. Let me wrap up this one slide, or let me finish this. I'll record the rest if it's an online lecture, or you know what? Let's ram through this. And if you have any questions, email me. I'll get them answered. We'll finish next class, whatever. Speak, talk, communicate with us. We're people, like I said. We can and we probably will understand or maybe answer any concerns or questions you guys might have. And remember, you are not the only student, right? So when you do take time of faculty and staff, one is let us know who you are and what class you're in. Countless have been the times where I have students text me or send me emails that say, hey, what did we do? What did I miss? Hi, I'm sorry, who is this and what class are you talking about? Oh, I'm sorry. And at each beginning of semester, I show my students my Blackboard. I teach 7 classes this semester. I have 8 in the fall. So remembering that many people and what class you're in, it's not going to happen. I mean, I got a good memory, but not that good. Okay. So last and not least, obviously, before we wrap up, right on time, as always. No, I'm just kidding. But any questions, comments, concerns before we wrap up for the day and let you all go be merry on your Friday afternoon? All right. You're welcome. So just in case, I know again sometimes put you guys on the spot. Um, Again, here's my information, guys. Feel free to contact me, reach out. I am out of Valle Verde. I am in office A1102. There's my email, csalas69 at epcc.edu. And, excuse me, and my office number. Any voicemails and such, go to my email. So I can't tell you, oh, I didn't get your voicemail. I did, or I will. All right. And thank you. I much appreciated for your attendance. And I guess with that, I turn it over to Patricia Argema.
Hi, thank you so much, Mr. Salas, for your wonderful presentation. So if anybody has any questions for Mr. Salas while we close up, feel free to turn on your mic or to use the chat box. We would like to thank everyone for being a wonderful audience for coming in today. Remember that these sessions are recorded, so if you'd like to review or share anything from this presentation, those recorded sessions can definitely help. We did share the Tejano Passport link so that everyone may receive their points for coming in today. If anybody is struggling, just stay back and then we'll help you right after this, okay? We'll be back next week with the Tejano virtual events at 11 a.m. with Happy Math Hour, where Math 1314 and 1324 will cover factoring and different factoring methods. And our 1 p.m. session next week will be on memory tricks with Carrie Van Hoot. We hope to see you all again for Tejano virtual events, and we hope everyone has a restful weekend. Thank you again, Mr. Salas. We always love your presentations, and thank you everybody for coming in today.
Most definitely. Thank you all for having me, and thanks everybody else for coming in.
Thank